Hello, everybody. We'll be talking about toxic productivity, which is what we already discussed before in episode 5. So let us recap that since it's been a while.
So, um, let's first recap part one of our toxic productivity series. Now, I guess there's two installments count as a series. Who cares? It does now. I don't care. Yes. Okay. So, what really is toxic productivity? So, unless you're like in the productivity world, probably not really that familiar with the concept. So, toxic productivity is basically this unhealthy desire to be productive at all times and all costs. Like as we mentioned, it's like to be productive even when you have to spend time with your family, even when you have to like have a social life, and like eat healthy and like exercise. You have to do all these things in your life. Like toxic productivity is like the need to be perfect and to like do all of it, without taking a break.
Yeah, so in episode 5, we also discussed some ways to prevent toxic productivity, and that included accounting for inevitable setbacks and taking the time for things that are beyond your work necessities like social time, family time, eating, and and really understanding that taking breaks is productive for you in the long term because you don't want to get burnt out.
Yep. So,
So why we wanted to make this second installment because the both of us have like personally crossed over the next hurdle in the journey, and we sort of had new epiphanies about realizations about toxic productivity. And I think the main um, realization that we had is that perfection itself is not really perfect. These are Macaron's words, and it's just so nice, sums it up very nicely. Perfection itself is not really perfect because toxic productivity comes from the unrealistic expectation that you always have to be perfect. But this perfect doesn't account other aspects of your lives. And if you think about it, it's technically being imperfect because you're only focusing on being productive and neglecting other parts of your lives. And sometimes trying your best doesn't mean that you're perfect because that's just how it is. You can try your best and you can still fail, but you can try again. That's like the whole experience, right, Macaron?
yeah, exactly, precisely. Uh, so I would describe life as a weird looking graph. Like, how do I explain it? Like, like the graphs that like you're gonna keep going up for a while, and like you can't expect yourself to like never go down and climb back up to a higher point. Like that weird like those statistical graphs that kind of go zigzaggy, but like eventually end up in a higher point than it started, right? So that's what I mean by like life is a weird looking graph. Um, so it's getting to a point of like balance in your life is very difficult, right? Like trying to figure out how much you should contribute to your social life, to your family, to yourself, while also staying productive to some level that you are not completely abandoning everything that you worked for. Like you can like sometimes just have an epiphany and think that like, oh my gosh, what am I really doing this for? Like why am I contributing so much? Why am I working so hard and I haven't gotten any results yet? Like you kind of sometimes, I mean, like at least I have that feeling sometimes, like not necessarily that I'm like maybe that I'm not getting good enough results, like I'm not placing well enough in a science competition, or I'm like don't have time to work on all of the things that I want to work on. Like I have 5 competitions coming up, like four or something like that, and like it's like it will take a toll on your mental health, um, when you like realize you have so much to do, And like I personally, I put like an unrealistic amount of things on my to-do list. Like, how am I supposed to watch 7 Khan Academy videos, research on like 15 diseases, uh, do research for the podcast, and then like also like figure out like go to my math class and like do my math homework and like all of that stuff and do my regular school homework in one day. Because like obviously when I counted up, like I made this that was my to-do list yesterday, right? And I made it like it was like when I counted it today morning, like how much I actually scheduled for myself yesterday, it was 7 hours of work on a Saturday. The point here is that you can't like expect yourself to do all of that. And like you have to kind of learn that like, as we said in the last episode, that taking a break is productive. And like you can't set these unrealistic expectations of yourself because then you're just gonna kind of crash and burn really quick. Even if you kind of know that you're never gonna complete everything on your to do list, which I like kind of told myself yesterday, but I'm like, that still makes me feel bad that I can't like do all of the work that I need to do for all of the things that I'm signed up for, you know? So I guess you kind of make that balance. That's making sense.
Yeah, I think part of breaking away from toxic productivity is understanding that life isn't a linear line graph that's just gonna keep going up and up and up, because it doesn't work like that. And you gotta like, you go through a hard time and then you get over it, and then you have a new state that you're happy with, and then something imperfect shows up again, and then you gotta deal with that. And and you just cycle through, and your productivity cycles with you. And honestly, don't worry if you can't understand all of this and break away from your toxic productivity, even just a little, quite yet, because sometimes you just have a lot of questions like, why am I doing this? Do I really want to be doing this? What should I be doing? Like, these are all questions that I've been wondering. I still don't really have answers to. I think it's okay to not have answers, and it's okay to not be fulfilling everything that you signed up for, because you might be overcommitted. And I think we should all just trust that if we keep doing what we like, if we keep moving forward, then we can trust life to bring good things to us.
Wow, it's very well said. We do gotta
Thank
trust
you.
that life's gonna bring these good things to us. We gotta trust this graph that we've been talking about. And like we were talking about perfection too, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like um that being doing your best is not necessarily perfect. Like you can it's like what you're doing your best at almost. Like you gotta be doing the best for you and not what like someone else tells you is the best to get into this college or to win the competition or like what your parents tell you even is like the best. You gotta like figure out what's best for you and follow the path to that. And at the same time, like kind of understanding yourself. And because like that's a whole, it's like a discover, you discover a lot about yourself when you're like trying to achieve a certain like tangible thing, you know? Um, but like I feel like we sacrifice so much for a certain like path that we want to go on, not realizing that the path itself is not perfect. Like there are flaws in the system too, you know. There are flaws everywhere, and like you kind of gotta make a distinction. And like as a student, it's kind of hard because like you can't escape if you want to get into Stanford, for example. You can't really escape the things that they ask from you, but you gotta like figure out why you want to go, like why do you want to go to this college and like figure out like that's what I mean by like figuring out the path best for you because it might not necessarily be what society tells you is the best path for you just based on like what you portray to everyone else. Like I was recently apparently someone told me that apparently everyone thinks that I am the super like at school for some reason. I don't know how that's happened, but like everyone thinks that I'm like a super productive person and somehow get sleep. And I have no idea. That's literally what they said to me. Like, you're like my super productive friend that someone gets sleep. And I'm like, it's not it's not true. Because like then like people like expect so much from you, and you gotta like realize that you don't have to like subscribe to these expectations.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences. Macaron has straight up told me, Coffee, you're superhuman. And I'm like, gee, thanks. I didn't know my DNA test results came back as superhuman.
Bro, seriously though, you are the most productive person that I know. Like the thing is I know that like everyone has flaws. The thing is people like told me like I was like trying to talk to my friend who's like um uh and she because we're both doing the bio Olympiad, right? And she was telling me like I don't know how you do it all. You like have no flaws. And I'm like, hold up. And then she's like, but I guess you're a human too. I'm like, did you not think of me as human earlier? And I was so confused. Because like I don't know, because like you kind of tell everyone your your successes. I mean, I guess this only applies to like us or like people similar to us. But like you can't tell people like, oh yeah, I got this award, you know, and they kind of expect that from you every single time.
Yeah, so I guess just as a closing statement, I'll just say that we should try to make our productivity work for us instead of working for our productivity.
Nice. That's a good way of saying it. Oh my gosh, that's perfect. Good job, Coffee. I'm
Thank
very proud of
you.
you.
Now, Macaron, say the actual closing statement.
This concludes another The Warped Life Advice episode. Goodbye and have a good life.